Tim, who's calling in from Washington. Tim, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hey, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Hey, it's the weekend. Well, it's the end of the weekend for me, but anyway, so I wanted to talk about nihilism a little bit, if that's okay. And it's sort of related, I guess, to the last call.
Everybody's asking permission today. Yeah, live your lives today, folks. Yeah, absolutely. Talk about nihilism.
My boyfriend and I were out yesterday, and we were talking, and this subject came up, and I thought I had been thinking about this for several months. Nihilism isn't necessarily a negative philosophy. It's not about, oh my God, there's nothing to this whole thing, and we're all just kind of existing or anything like that. It's sort of all about, you get to live your life, period, and it really goes to show the type of person you are. If you're a good person and you believe that after death there is nothing, and you really believe that there is no heaven nor hell, or you really believe that we aren't put here for a specific reason because God, Odin, Ra, any of these gods have just placed us here. We are simply here because we happen to exist on a planet that was perfect for us to evolve into what we are. And it really shows what kind of a person you are if you believe that there is nothing in the future, nothing after death, and you're still a good person, and you're not being forced to be a good person because the 10 Commandments are telling you to be.
Sure. Yeah, nihilism is complicated because it's been interpreted by different people to mean different things, right? So like nihilism, first of all, there's different kinds of nihilism. You can talk about like metaphysical nihilism or like mereological nihilism, but most people when they're talking about nihilism, they're talking about what's been described by philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who talks about nihilism in several of his books, but it's not a prescriptive sort of ideology. Really, it's more a description of the times. Nietzsche was worried. He was worried about the post-Christian world, basically. He's the one. If you ever heard like God is dead and we have killed him, that's Friedrich Nietzsche. He said that, and basically he's like, look, what are we going to do about living in this world that has no sense of objective values, right? Where everybody is kind of coming up with his own meaning, and he is actually very positive in his affirmation. He says, look, we have to make meaning for ourselves. I mean, there's a lot of people that misinterpret his work because they just heard about it, and they're like, oh, he's saying everything is all meaningless. He's like, yes, but he's not saying that's it. He's saying, and so because of that, human beings have to kind of do things, right? And of course, other writers have talked about this too. But Nietzsche's like the guy that people talk about with this. And yeah, like people who are very serious about the concept of existential nihilism, this idea that nothing matters, they're the first ones to say, yeah, we have to like kind of come up with our own stuff here. And that's been interpreted in different ways. Albert Camus talks about the myth of Sisyphus, coming up with absurdism, and then and Jack Derrida and all these other folks the rest of the 20th century like kind of talk about this. But anybody who's never actually read any of that stuff is just like, oh yeah, all these atheists, they say that, there's just no meaning to life and we just gotta all die. What's the point of living? Like, that's just really not what any of them have to say about it. And it's a little more complicated, but you're right, there are more positive interpretations of it that are out there. Richard, what do you got?
Yeah, I've not really looked into nihilism, however you want to say it, very much. I think I wrote an essay about it on Nietzsche and his kind of is the way that Buddhism influenced his philosophy and how people misunderstood Buddhism at the time. that he was around and kind of saw that as a nihilistic philosophy, which it isn't. And I kind of did an essay about that a while ago, but it's not. Other than that, it's not actually something I've looked much into. I think we get in this community, we get it thrown at us a lot by Christians and other religious people who kind of say, well, if you don't have something to believe in, you're obviously believing nothing. Therefore, you're nihilist. And I just simply don't think that's the case. I don't think there's a definite difference for me between skepticism and nihilism. And, I think that's important to point out. But other than that, I've really not got much to contribute.
Yeah, no, but what you're saying is important, because even if there isn't an objective reason for living, an objective value, an objective morality, I mean, so what, right? That's not stopping people from living. I didn't like the things that I liked when I was 5 because they were objectively good. I liked them because I just thought they were cool, right? And it's the same thing for everything I like today. I'm just more grown about it, and I like to have more complicated reasons. But I don't know. It's like you like what you like, and most of us are pretty pragmatic about it. So a lot of the things we like are pragmatic and happen to help us, but that doesn't mean that they're objective just because they appear to be universal. I guarantee what a lot of people think are universal values really aren't, right? But anyway, Tim, what you had sound like you had more to say.
Well, I was also telling him yesterday when we were talking that when I was a Mormon and a fundamentalist Pentecostal Christian and all of that, I was so afraid of death. I was so afraid of fucking my life up, somehow doing something wrong, that God is going to send me to hell because I would misstep. And with nihilism, or the nihilistic thinking of not really having to look toward an actual afterlife, just no longer existing after this body fails, I'm no longer really afraid of death. I'm no longer really afraid to live my life and make mistakes along the way, and yet I can also be such an incredible person because I'm not told I have to be an incredible person. I can be this incredible person just because that's the humane thing to do. It's not I guess a superior thing. It is just a humane thing to be a good person. And that's what I love about kind of thinking about, that's what I love about nihilism, or at least my idea of what nihilism is, because I don't have to live by any set standard. I just have to live by decent human thought, and making sure that I am being the best person I can, however that may look.
Yeah, 100%, Tim. Totally agree with you. Yeah, it's it's one of those things where some people, they look at that and they don't find empowerment at all, and they think it's defeating. I definitely thought that when I was a Christian, and then I realized, well, Christianity can also be interpreted in extremely nihilist ways, if you just have the right language for it, if you have the right mindset for it. Look at what God wants for us. We are God is our master, and we're essentially his puppets, and we just have to follow the will of God. And if we refuse to follow the will of God, we are rejected, and we are sent to hell, and we are to burn for eternity for expressing the free will that he gave us. What exactly is positive about that message in that light? There's lots of ways you can.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So if we're talking purely in terms of positive and negative worldviews, right, you can easily construe the Christian worldview to be extremely negative. And can nihilism be interpreted in a negative way and still be legitimate to its like fundamental sort of interpretations. Like, yeah, I think you can, but it can also be interpreted in a positive way. I mean, really, that's kind of the whole point. It's like it's really up to what philosophers have made of it and how to solve the human condition, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, especially in a world that is probably going to be slowly rejecting Christianity over time, or at least reinterpreting it to fit more modern secular conventions. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got. Richard, anything else?
Now, I think we just need to get rid of this kind of idea that nihilism is people walking around going, "Woe is me!
Yeah,
everything is worthless," because it's just simply not the case.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow, very marginalized view of what it is.
Yeah, 100%. Tim, anything else before we let you go?
No, I think that's all I wanted. I just, like I said, I was talking with my boyfriend yesterday and was thinking, oh crap, I want to talk about this to somebody who actually will understand what I'm saying. And you not only understood it, but you actually explained a couple of things to me that I didn't know. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think if you want to read the books, I can't remember if it's The Gay Science where he talks about it, or if it's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but he talks about it, and honestly, Arthur Schopenhauer and stuff talks about it before, but like Nietzsche's kind of the guy. If you want to talk about this stuff in depth, he's very interesting on that. But Tim, thanks again for calling in, and always appreciate it. When you do call in, it is always lovely talking to you, and a good conversation. And nihilism is probably one of the most misunderstood and misinterpreted ideas in philosophy, maybe more than anything else. I really can't think of anything else that's more misinterpreted. Can you? I mean, it's really just, I don't know.
Atheism.
Yeah, everybody. That's true, but yeah, I guess that's fair. Everybody just has their own ideas of what nihilism is, and it's complicated. Like it's one thing, like many things in philosophy, it doesn't have just one definition, but it's also like going to have various, much more thought out ideas than what you might imagine if you actually take the time to read stuff. But most people don't. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But hey,
well, and read philosophy, people. It's important.
Yeah, and I'm not. And by the way, I don't have a philosophy degree or anything. I'm just a lay person, so I could be 100% wrong, and some philosophy PhD is going to be like,
my degree is in philosophy, and you explained it far better than I could have done.
Okay,
so.
Well, there you go. I just, you know, you can figure this stuff out by Google searches. Honestly, I mean, it doesn't take. It's not that hard, but